while we honestly go through a couple bad examples, a couple good examples of demos, and then we're going to open it up for discussion and honestly see if we can help you guys with your sales scenarios and help you not lose deals but win deals. I'll kick it off with intros. My name is Josh Topel. I'm co-founder of Digitile. Digitile is a cross-platform tagging management solution where you can search and tag all of your files in one place. But in my formal life, I was a sales engineer at IBM, and I helped close millions of dollars in sales, and I actually worked with Ed back in the day.
That we did.
Cool.
So I'll take that as my transition. So I'm Ed Jaffe. I founded a company called Demo Solutions a couple of years ago, where I help companies have better demos and presentations. And I'm going to talk about some bad demos today, because bad demos, when we're not being judged, are kind of fun.
That's awesome. And my name is Larson Stair. I'm CEO and co-founder of DemoFlow. DemoFlow is a platform that helps software sales teams really create some guardrails around how they're pitching and presenting their own products, really helping you to combine slides, platform URLs, customer videos, or really anything else that you want to build a cohesive presentation. Yeah, excited to be here today.
So to kick things off, I want to share a bit of a passage from a book about that I think really helps as we think about sales and about demos and really making that emotional connection with customers. It's a book that's really been impactful for me. I read it actually almost every day. My 18-month-old really likes it. I am, of course, talking about the Sandra Boynton classic, Happy Hippo, Angry Duck. So just going to read a little bit out of this. I don't even think I need the book at this point. Hello, little person. How are you today? Is your mood quite terrific or only okay? Are you happy as a hippo or angry as a duck? Maybe sad as a chicken. Larson, can you sadly say cluck, cluck?
Cluck, cluck.
We'll work on it. Are you grumpy as a moose? Excited as a dog? Worried as a rabbit? Contented as a frog? Perhaps like a pig, you are sweetly amused. Perhaps like a cow, you are completely confused. And at this point, you're probably really confused why I am reading from a kid's book on a webinar. There is a reason to it. Besides the fact that it's fun, is that as we think about demoing, we want to think about how we make emotional connections with our customers. And emotions are really going to dictate pretty much everything on that demo, regardless of almost anything else as you're presenting. However, whatever emotions you elicit from the audience is going to completely change how the demo goes. And so it's very easy, for example, to make somebody angry as a duck. And when you have that, when you make the audience angry, which you'll see as we go through the demo, you'll see some ways that we do that. You're not going to get anywhere. And in fact, you may get a hostile reaction from the audience, which is going to kill a demo awfully quick. Even if you have a mixed audience where some people are angry and some people aren't, you're probably not going to go too far in that account. It's very easy when we think about making somebody worried in a demo. That's probably not what you want to do. And there's lots of ways that we can do that, especially with our focus on AI, with so many companies focusing on AI technology. So let's say I walk into the room and I say, hey, I'm Ed, and I'm going to show you some technology we have, this AI that's going to make your team so efficient that you can just get rid of half your sales team. Well, a whole lot of people are going to get worried and think that, oh no, I'm going to lose my job. What am I going to do? And as outlandish as that might sound, I've seen that happen more than once. And so once you make somebody worried, that type of emotion, you're just going to shut down. Think about if you're anxious about something, you can't think about anything else. It's the only thing in your mind. You're going to do the same thing to the audience. And because we only have the ability to pay attention to one thing at a time, even though we all think we can multitask, it turns out nobody actually can. And we can just split our attention. And so if you're worried about something, that's where your focus is going to be. And then it's pretty easy to confuse the audience when we use words, some of the big words that we might use as we're talking about our technology. And even as I'm reading this kid's book and everybody's probably confused, like, what is he doing? No one was going to stop me and say like, hey, why are you reading from this kid's book? And so as we're in our presentations, let's say we use acronyms the audience doesn't understand, or we use our language, like our own language, that means something to us, whether it's, our acronyms, our technical terms. People in the audience aren't going to stop us to ask because that just doesn't benefit them. They don't want to look stupid in front of their boss. And if everybody's quiet, then no one will actually talk. It's called, there's a phenomenon behind it called pluralistic ignorance, which is basically, if I am seeing that nobody's asking questions, I'm going to assume that I'm the only one who doesn't understand. And so I'm not going to interrupt to ask questions. And so you have a bunch of people who are sitting around confused, but no one's telling the presenter. And then we wonder why we don't win that deal. And so there's a great book, a real book, not just, we're moving on from kids' books, about communication, which is called If I Understood You, Would I Have This Look on My Face, by Alan Alda, as in the actor from MASH back in the day. And he spends a lot of time now with Stony Brook University. He focuses on, or SUNY Stony Brook, he focuses on helping scientists better communicate because scientists are notoriously not good at that. And so in this book, he talks about how he uses improv and sort of acting techniques to help with technical communication. And he says the person who's communicating something is responsible for how well the other person follows them. So as presenters, the onus is on us to make that connection with our audience, to make sure the audience understands us. The onus is not on the audience. It's 100% on us. And so we want to think about what we are doing both to make that connection, but also things that take away. And so if we think about some of the phrases that we might use, we create a single source of truth and provide analytics that deliver actionable insights. We start with a home screen where you'll find your dashboard full of widgets and apps. Our differentiator is that we leverage a cloud-based AI. We deliver a 360-degree view of your customer on a single pane of glass. Now, I won't ask for show of hands who's used phrases like this, but I've seen, with all the demo coaching I've done, I've seen these phrases in every single industry. So Josh and I both come from marketing. We use, the phrase 360-degree view comes up a lot in marketing technology. And I actually used to think that was primarily for marketing, but I've seen it in pretty much every space. People use phrases like that. So if you have 4 vendors walking in using these types of phrases, the audience isn't going to know how to tell us apart. And so it's a very easy way just to get lost in the shuffle as a vendor. And so as I think this meme pretty much says it all, that, you're going to leverage AI in the cloud. The last 3 vendors said the same thing. So we want to be different as we're making that connection with the audience. And so what I'm going to share now is a framework that I call demo fails, which are the things that we do during demos that bring things down. And then we're going to jump into an example where I'm going to go through a demo and I'm going to show you some examples of perhaps a bad demo and think about those demo fails that we're going to show. We'll come back to it and I'll ask the audience what I did wrong and perhaps what I could do differently. And then we'll show you afterwards an example of a good demo. So I've sort of talked about this, but the first demo fail is leveraging buzzwords. Anyone who knows me knows I have a personal hatred of the word leverage just because I hear it all the time. And I'm not even sure what the correct usage of it is at this point, if there even is one. But everything is leverage. So if everything is leverage, then nothing is leverage. And so not just words like that, but you saw the ones that we had before, that the more we use these buzzwords and jargon, the less the audience is going to understand us. Narrating the demo, like one of the greatest narrators of all time, Mr. Morgan Freeman. And when we narrate the demo, it's I'm going to click here, I'm going to click here, and we're moving around. Another really common variant of that is where you have forms and there's a lot of fields you can input. Let's say you're working in Salesforce and you're showing a record and you're entering that account information. It's okay, I can type first name, I can type last name, then I can type the account, and you'll go through that whole form. We all know how to fill out a form online, so we don't need to see every single field, but that's often what happens when we're narrating, is we're just saying everything we're doing instead of talking about value. Slow your roll. This is where either the presenter is moving too fast, and it can be from a speed perspective. Just, I'm from the East Coast, so sometimes I can talk really fast as I want to keep going. You just sometimes need to slow that down. But it's also where sometimes salespeople offer something a little bit too early before you've established that relationship or that use case. I used to work with salespeople who would offer a proof of concept essentially in the first meeting, which of course us in pre-sales, we would have to deliver that. But we didn't really have the use case yet. It was just a way to advance the deal. But that can actually turn a client off because then you're just giving them too much too soon. They don't really know what to do with it. I've made a huge mistake. This is where we say things that just upset the audience. The example I gave earlier of you can get rid of half your team is a really good example. And sometimes these can be pretty small. I was once working with a company that had a very startup-y feel. I literally rode a scooter around this office and I referred to them as a startup. The problem was this was about a 10-year-old company and one of the people had been with them pretty much since day one. And right when I used that word startup, I saw the look on her face and she didn't think of them as a startup. I immediately lost her because with that one word, I showed them that I didn't know who they were. And I should have just picked up my laptop and walked out at that point. The meeting was pretty much over. Let me Google that for you. This is where you just don't do any research about your customer. I've seen things where people get the industry wrong, or they're talking to one division in a company and they are acting like they're talking to a different division. And so that just completely derails the conversation. And then finally, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. This is where we do pretty much whatever we wanted to do as the presenters, whether it's we want to show something that we think is cool, even if we don't establish that the audience thinks it's cool, or if you do discovery at the beginning of the meeting, sort of for the sake of discovery. So here's my list of discovery questions. You ask, you go down, you sort of write down the answers, but then none of the answers inform your demo. You're just doing whatever that plan was. The audience isn't going to care. You haven't done anything to show them that you've listened to them. You're basically just ignoring them and doing whatever you want. And so these are our 6 demo fails. And I see there's a couple points in the chat. So Michelle said, if you think back, it seems like there's an alpha decision maker and the rest of the team stays quiet as their boss takes over. So how I've handled this situation before, and I'm curious if anybody else wants to jump in and add to this, but how I've handled it is I try to figure out what the benefits for each audience member are and maybe establish that at the beginning. So early in my agenda, the agenda is not just, demo Q&A, next steps, which is the typical meeting agenda. It's here are the 5 things we're going to talk about. And so by doing that, I'm showing that executive, this is going to be the section for you, but I'm going to show value to the other people in the room as well. And then they know I'm getting to them, but I don't have to say, oh, I'm going to get to you later. So sort of showing that plan helps us get around it. Josh or Larson, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what I commented in the response. Typically, if there's an alpha and there's a decision maker who's sort of dominating the meeting, you have to understand that there are other power users that will probably have the decision maker's ear. And so the power users or the other players that may be quieter in the audience will ultimately have huge influence on the decision. And so to Ed's point, you want to facilitate an environment where you can get the quiet people to sort of speak up on some of the pain points that they're looking to check off. And if you get them to become sort of your champion, it'll make the decision maker's decision much easier.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Josh. And I'll just actually call people out by name on calls and just be like, hey, Ed, what do you think about this? How does this point relate to your day-to-day? Even when you have that kind of person that's kind of the alpha in the room, can just kind of, divvy up the conversation a bit more and just inspire more conversation. And as a result, that person can help to convince the alpha that, oh, maybe I should rethink about this. They brought up good points. Maybe I don't know everything I think I knew. But that's a great point, Josh. I completely agree with you
there. All right. So why don't we jump into our fake demo or our fake presentation? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to demo to Larson. So Larson is the head in this example. Larson is the head of an e-commerce company. And I'm going to show him a demo of Digitile, which is the product that Josh is the chief product officer for. And so this is not going to be a good demo of Digitile, though I will say I had trouble writing a bad demo of Digitile because it's a pretty simple product. So which is just true. I'm not even trying to be nice about it. It was really hard for me to write a bad demo for it. So don't judge the product too harshly by this demo, and just wait for Josh's demo before judging the product, because he's going to give a much better demo than I am. So Larson, whenever you're ready, let's kick off our first scenario.
Yeah, of course. Hey, Ed, sorry I'm a few minutes late here. I just got caught up on another call. My apologies there. I apologize for that.
Hey, no worries at all. Let me share some slides with you. So I know you talked to Jamie last week, and based on my understanding, it seems like, you know, your team is just spending way too much time looking for content. No one can find anything they need, so you're really struggling with that productivity. You're storing all your files or looking for files in your email, which, you know, as you probably know, that's not really what email is meant for. It really just sounds like all of your systems are stuck in the 90s, and you're losing time and money. It's just really hard to do your job well. Do I have that right? Is there any other pain points I'm missing?
I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. But look, you know, I'm really here just to, you know, I need to make my team more efficient, and particularly with everyone being remote now, that's more challenging than ever. So, yeah, that's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and I'm really excited to show you things. So, you know, as you're selling to retailers, you can be more efficient,
Right.
and so.
Okay, hold on. You do know that we sell direct to consumers, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely knew that. So let me just start by saying, you know, people are just, you know, I'm just going to jump into my content. So people are just busier than ever before. And in fact, according to the last consulting report I looked at, 97% of people are struggling to find content. Uh, but let me give you a little bit of background about us. So we were founded in 2017. Our founders felt that they were just not platforms that could do what they wanted. They were at a big company, and they just decided to start their own thing. And so we have lots of great customers. Companies like the Leftorium, Stark Industries, the Bluth Company, Peter Parker Glasses, lots of big companies that you've probably heard of that they love the platform. But hey, look, I know we got a late start, so I'm just going to move through these slides pretty quickly, and let's just get right to the software. And by the way, if you like what you see today, I'll be happy to set you up on a trial account. We can move to proof of concept. So I'm just going to skip through this, and let's jump into the demo. And scene. So audience, I asked everyone to maybe jump on video or jump off mute and share what you thought went wrong with that demo. Or you can share in the chat as well. Yes, I didn't listen to the customer, Michelle, and I was pretty clueless on that. I didn't do any research before and just sort of started doing whatever it was I was going to do. Glad I can play clueless well, though. That's good. That's good. What else?
Didn't acknowledge any of the things that he said, really. You just kind of blew past them and went on with what you thought was the agenda.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so if we think about those demo fails, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I didn't really do what Larson wanted me to do, or try to understand him at all. I was just like, I have my agenda, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so, yeah, Jeff said the statement "stuck in the 90s" is a bit condescending. Totally agree. I've seen that a surprising amount. I've seen people use phrases like that. You know, you're stuck in the past, or sometimes I see people who talk about how the homegrown system is not efficient or good, which is not very effective when the person who built the homegrown system is in the room. I've seen that happen more than once, and so it definitely can come off condescending, which, you know, you can kind of see the look Larson had. He doesn't want to listen to me at that point. I clearly am just not interested in whatever it is that you know, that he wants me to talk about. Yep, I came off offensive more than nice or interested, which I was probably leaning a little more on that than I would in a real demo. But yeah, I mean, that, and it's very easy to come off that way. I was speaking to, think about what I was doing. I was speaking too fast. I was using some phrases that were a bit offensive, but it wasn't that far off of perhaps what we've seen in real presentations. Some of it was a bit exaggerated, but not like a crazy amount, where those phrases that I was using and the things that I was saying, those are straight out of when I do demo audits and watch demos. Those are straight out of the demo audits that I've done. Anything else? Next steps, trial POC were unclear and not tailored to the prospect. That's exactly right, Neil. And it wasn't even, and that's a good point with that. It's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll set you up on a trial and we don't know what he needs. I don't even know his use case yet. So I'm making an offer to just try to advance the deal when I don't even have a use case. I don't even think he's interested. I'm just trying to throw something at him and see what works. That's that slow your roll where I'm just, Larson's here and I'm all the way over here just trying to get him going and on to the next thing.
And Ed, this might be your that's my story and I'm sticking to it, but for me personally, what I would have done when you kind of maybe mistake the industry that we're in or what our business model is or anything like that is like, oh man, let me reconfirm that my story that I'm telling is correct even. And
yeah,
we just kept going, plowing down that route because you had your script, you had your thing that you wanted to say, and then it's just like you totally lost me. I'm out. I'm gonna futz around on my phone now.
The other thing, and this may not have been picked up just because it was a scenario setting, but this was a second call. And typically in companies where you're passing off from one person to the next person feels like they have to sort of set the stage all over again with context that has already been covered in the first call. And it's a byproduct of just being that first part of the communication, but communication between whoever's passing leads or whoever's passing the torch to you is really important so that you dive directly into the meat. And more so now that we're in this work from home culture, people don't have patience. Larson was on his phone texting, kids are running around. It's like direct to the meat and not repeating things that are your own self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I see what Jeff put in the chat that it was supposed to be an example of a bad demo, but I was talking at him, not with him, and just going through the pain points to get to the end point. Yeah, that's exactly it. And think about what I did even after the pain points. I said, okay, so here's everything. Here's some random fact that is not all that interesting. And then I started talking about myself with the fake companies for, way too long. Because the reality is no one cares about when a company was founded. Nobody cares about the founder story, how many offices, the NASCAR slide. And while all the companies on this NASCAR slide are fake, I had way too much fun creating some of these logos or just Googling some of the other logos. Oftentimes you see companies that want to put their big names on these slides to make it look like, look, we're so impressive. We work with IBM and Coca-Cola and Deloitte and Google and whoever else. But what if you're a rep that's working with a small, medium business sector and you're showing a bunch of enterprise customers? You've inadvertently now told this customer that you're too big for them. Like they're not going to want to work with you because you're not going to have the focus on these small companies. You have all these big names. So even by the companies that we put up there, we can end up turning off the audience. Or you could have a situation where, oh, Coca-Cola, I know Steve over there. What did he do? How successful was he? And now as the salesperson, if you don't know that case, you've put yourself in a situation where you're just going to feel uncomfortable in front of the audience. Or let's say it's maybe not a current customer and maybe things didn't end well with the customer. I'm sure no one's ever kept those on their NASCAR slide before, but now you're in a situation where, yeah, he kind of doesn't like us anymore. So that's kind of the situation you can put yourself in. So a lot of things can go wrong at that point.
So Ed, to ask you a question around that, specifically around the NASCAR slide, because I think there is a place for customer, stories, but when you just have a blanket, logo slide that has no relation to me as the audience, it can just feel isolating. It could feel like it's, the shot, it's a shot at a dartboard, basically, if it's a good fit or not.
Yeah.
So how do you, use a customer story in that to make that more impactful?
It's a great question. One of the things that I like to do is use a story to kind of bookend the demo to make the audience a bit curious. And so I'll start at the beginning and say, I'm going to show you one of our customers. Let's take a look at the Leftorium. And so, which is a reference I've not thought of in a very long time. But, I throw up that customer and I say, okay, so here were the challenges they had, which by the way, gets me out of talking about Larson's pain and lets me talk about the customer's pain. And so now I'm letting him off the hook. I'm not making him feel bad for all the things that are going wrong. I'm talking about somebody else and just letting him identify with it. And then I can talk about what they did, but wait until the end to actually give the result, because I want to earn the right to have that big number. And it's way more impactful. If I tell you at the beginning of the meeting, oh yeah, I'm going to show you somebody who saved $20 million or 50% of their costs, whatever that claim is. If I don't prove it, Larson's reaction is just going to be like, well, that's bullshit. Like, I don't believe you. Versus if I build my case and at the end, boom, look how much money they saved, it really lands in a way that it just doesn't if I use this another part. So that's really what bookending lets you do. It lets you set it up, and then at the end, it lets you have that closing moment where essentially the customer closes for you. If you have a quote after that goes, like when you have a quote that really nails it, then the customer closes. And so Michelle asked a question, what about when you work with a bunch of SMBs and a logo slide doesn't have the impact and all the names are SMB, how do you manage that? I probably just wouldn't use a logo slide and find a really successful customer and what they've been able to do. So pick one that's been really successful, even if people don't necessarily know it. If it's a good reference and a good case study, I'm not sure how much it really matters. Especially because everyone's done their research before the meeting starts. Typically, they've looked at your website. Maybe they did it 5 minutes before the meeting, but they looked at the website, they looked at G2 Crowd, they got a little bit of background. So I just don't think that is helping. And I'd rather show really good technology and show them I can solve their problem. That makes the NASCAR slide less important. Because if I show them I can do what you need, then I'm solving their problem. Then the other customers are more confirmation than selling.
Personally, I found that the NASCAR slide is something that I usually would only show based on request versus sort of trying to pump the chest up, because at the end of the day, that's just like you said, Ed, it's like they're going to come in with their own pain points, their own problems. And if your software, if your product can solve that, the names of the customers you have is sort of icing on the cake, and more so potentially just a checkbox for them when they're going through their provisioning, their procurement process or their selection.
Any other questions, or should we move to, or thoughts, or should we move to part 2?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, so getting back in character. So I'm going to jump into the demo here, and I'm going to tell you a story as I move through. As you can see, we have this Chrome extension. It has everything you need in one place where you can just find all of your files. So why don't I kick things off by showing you all the integrations we have and how you can leverage data from all of your endpoints and use our AI to understand all the data, bring everything together. So here's all the different endpoints that we have, all the different integrations. I could go through the process now, but it's just a demo system. So, don't worry too much about it. It's an easy process, and a couple clicks, our people can get you going. That makes sense so far?
But yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So let's go over to Gmail. And now that I'm here, I can organize it by whatever file type. So, let's see all the file types we support, whether it's documents, PDFs, images, presentations, spreadsheets, videos, Google, disk images, code, project files, archives, audio, databases, messages, ebooks, fonts, web, miscellaneous, any kind of file type that you need. Questions on that, on all the file types we support?
No, this is fine. Yeah.
Awesome. So, hey, Larson, I know we haven't talked about project management, but we have some really cool project management features that we're releasing. And
Ed, we already have a tool of this, so let's just kind of move on to something else here.
No, I totally understand, but I just really want to show you. It's a super cool feature. We're really excited to roll it out. I'd love to just take a couple minutes and walk you through it.
I gotta be honest with you, I think I'm okay. I'll be honest with you, you just threw an awful lot on me. I need some time to kind of digest this, maybe a week or 10 days or so to figure out kind of what's going on. We really didn't talk about it, but I'm pretty early in this process, and we need to get some internal stakeholders involved here.
Well, is there anything you didn't see that would really help you get going on that trial that I talked about earlier?
honestly, you just kind of dumped a full set of like an encyclopedia at me right now. So I got to take a step back, take a breath, and just kind of take a look at things. You know, it's like eating an elephant at this point. I just want to look one bite at a time, really.
Well, what if I have you talk to one of our customers for a reference call? I know Ned at the Leftorium would be happy to talk to you. He'll tell you how much he likes the tool.
You know, actually, let's do this. Let's set up some. You know, let's follow up next week, and I can let you know kind of where we're at after I have a chat internally. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, I think that's fine. We'll set up a follow up then.
Perfect.
All right, and scene. By the way, that interaction at the end was completely real. Like, not with this product, but with another product, I took that almost word for word from a real one that I saw. So it may feel like an exaggeration, but yeah, that was real. So going back to our demo fails, what went wrong in that demo? Yes, this is just a demo account. That was a more egregious example of, I'm not even going to show this because it's a demo account, but I put a post about this not that long ago. And whenever we say that in pretty much any context, it sort of can do one of two things. By saying it's not real, you're saying to the audience, hey, I completely faked the data. So I'm either saying this doesn't really work because I'm not showing it, or of course the numbers are going to be good, the data is going to work perfectly because it's a demo account. Why wouldn't it work perfectly? So by just using that one phrase, I've managed to introduce doubt into my demo. What else?
You sounded slightly desperate at the end of that call.
Yeah, I got a little bit desperate. I got a number I have to make. But you can feel that, right? So if you start to get that, like, really pushing just to get something, it's cringy. Larson just like let me, stop. And even when Larson said, I'll be honest, like, I'm early, but he's trying to nicely get out of the conversation without saying no. People actually really struggle to say no to things sometimes. For example, if a salesperson just approaches me and I don't really feel like having the conversation or just want to get out of it, oh, that sounds fine, but you know what? Really got to talk to my wife about it. If I say that, that's my letting you off the hook way of saying, like, I'm not buying this, but I'm just trying to get out of the conversation at that point. And so that's basically what Larson was doing, was finding a way to, we're not ready. We'll go figure it out. He was done, but instead of reading him, I just kept going. And yeah, that's exactly why I came off as desperate.
What would be a better way of handling that? If maybe we did overwhelm them during the demo, it's just too much at this point. What is a better way of bringing them back in without shoving it down their throat?
I think it depends on how far you've gone. At that point, I don't think there was anything I could have done to save that meeting. So sometimes it's not the best answer, but don't do it in the first place. But I think at that point, kind of know where you've crossed the line. And if he's clearly overwhelmed, it's okay to say, to just kind of take a step back and say, I can tell maybe this isn't resonating. Help me understand more what you need, and just put the conversation back on him, or just start asking questions. Get him to talk, because if Larson's talking, he's going to think the meeting went better. Just like if when you have a job interview, if the interviewer talks for 28 minutes out of a 30-minute interview, that's a good interview. It's kind of the same thing with a meeting. If I can get Larson to talk, he'll start opening up more, and then maybe I can try to save it that way.
And Ed, to back you up there, it's just like, everyone has bad days sometimes too, right? Like, you ever just have a bad day. Maybe I was a bad sales rep on this call. Doesn't mean I'm a bad sales rep in general, but fall on that sword, right? Fall on the sword. Hey, Ed, I think I messed up here. I'm really sorry. I think I didn't do enough. I didn't gather enough information on the front half. I want to be respectful of your time. What can we do moving forward? Can I ask you a few questions? I'm sorry I may have, kind of wasted some time here, but I think we could have a good solution, and just kind of like try to wipe the slate clean a little bit and just be a human about it. Really. It's like, everyone has bad days, off days, whatever. Like, and just kind of saying like, hey, I kind of screwed up here, could inspire some more conversation. They could say, yeah, you did kind of screw up. Sorry. The worst that happens, someone says, yeah, sorry, man, I don't think this is a good fit. And then you just move on. Or in reality, what's probably going to happen more often is they'll say, yeah, okay, yeah, let's kind of, let's talk about this a bit more. Let's have a conversation here.
Yeah, I love that. Honesty is always the best. There's no downside because either the meeting was lost anyway, or it's your chance to save it just by being a person.
Exactly.
And I think especially now, people typically have more empathy for things like that, just given what we're all going through. So just being honest. It's a great point. So I see Michelle said, you didn't give me any context once you jumped into the demo. It started with how it applies to Larson business and use cases. Yeah, that's really common. I had my demo script. I was ready to go. I started showing something technical, which was even worse because it's, there are lots of good integrations, but that's not what he needed at that point. I hadn't even explained what the product does or why he should care about it. So I'm all the way in like integration area where I haven't even shown value for the product yet. So I started with something that's pretty irrelevant when I haven't said any context anyway, and that I didn't give any benefits as I went throughout. It was just, I'm going to go here. And then I literally read every single file type. I was boring myself as I was reading all of those. I felt it was painful, so I can't even imagine how it was on the other side. But that's what people sometimes do is you want to show all the details, but I'm so far in the weeds. All I would have to say is, look, we can handle pretty much any kind of data that you can throw at the tool, we can use. Pretty much it. And then the benefit of that being that you don't have to custom format anything. You don't have to make any changes to your data. We can take it in as is. That's really what he cares about. He doesn't care that I can look at code or some of those other things.
The most common thing, even when I was doing demos, but still do demos, but is that sexy feature. And the internal excitement about something that's either being released or just got released, and irrespective of where the customer wants this demo to go, you figure out a way to squeeze it in. It's the most common thing, and it's probably one of the worst things because you're taking them down a path that could be even potentially bad. Something that they have zero interest in that could dovetail the conversation into, oh, well, that's actually a negative point for something that we're not looking for. And so it's really important to align with their pain points and hold in your inner needs and wants to go and just show off all the bells and whistles.
I think to demo and echo off of both of those points is like, just because you're in a demo now doesn't mean discovery ends, right? You're going into another you want to show your new fancy widget. You want to show the list of your impulses to say, I want to show the whole and list off the whole list of data we bring in. But as opposed to going down that route or showing the new feature is, hey, ask a question, do a little micro discovery. I see that happen all the time where people forget that this is a two-way street right now, and discovery doesn't end just because the name is demo now, right? Like you have to continue to ask questions and do discovery as you move throughout it.
Well, and with what with this is, and I completely agree. I mean, every meeting should be discovery. And with what Josh said, that situation where you're just kind of going off on your own thing, that happened to me once when I was head of sales ops. I was watching a demo for let's just say a social network that makes sense for businesses to look at. I won't say who it is though. And the rep spent 10 minutes showing this slide share feature that we had no desire to see. We said at the upfront of the meeting exactly what we wanted, and he really pushed to show it. He ran out of time to the point that I got kicked out of the conference room I was in, and I literally had to close my laptop on him because we had to go. And that instead of talking about the thing we wanted to see, not only did I have kind of a bad just feeling about it, like I felt bad that I just closed my laptop on somebody, like I felt awkward about it, but that was kind of his shot to show us that he could do what we wanted, and he just never managed to recover from that. William, it looked like you went off mute for a second a little bit earlier. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to basically say that this relates directly to our business and our conversations that we have. A lot of times just trying to make the sale on any one of the components and products within our platform. And a lot of times sales reps will have that conversation, seeing that they may be losing a prospect and say, well, hey, what about this? What about X, Y, and Z? Maybe you might be interested in this situation, even though the agenda and the focus of the call wasn't even about those additional features.
Textbook.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think what Larson said earlier is such a good way to avoid doing that, where if you just kind of own it and try to get to the use case, better to let them try to point you to a use case than just, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? It's like when I try to get my 18-month-old to eat dinner and he's not in the mood for anything. Well, how about chicken fingers? No. How about mac and cheese? No. And we've literally just will keep throwing food at him until he finally eats something. And usually it's just chocolate chips because we just get desperate. But that's sometimes what it can feel like.
Yeah, Larson actually mentioned this earlier. It's the ability to sort of turn that situation. It's two paths. It's either sort of an exit stage right, or the ability to turn that conversation back into a discovery and reel it back and go, okay, let's back up a little bit. Are we both on the same page? And I want to learn more about different
Continuing to strike.
I think your text is your audio is a little bit behind.
How do you bring it home, and how do you?
Sorry, all I got of that was how do you bring it home?
Yeah, we may need chat.
Yeah, looks like he's back. He's coming back in though, so we'll give him a sec. Well, we're oh, there he is.
I apologize.
No worries. All we got of that was how do you bring it home? So if you just want to repeat your question.
Yeah, appreciate that. So in a situation where you seem to be striking out and you're not able to resonate with the prospect on any one of those items or products, how do you find that commonality and basically fill the time for that call where you do have their attention, you do have their time, but they're not interested in anything you're trying to sell at the moment?
It's a good question.
This is a good question.
I think go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it begs the question even if you have their time, sometimes the best thing is to give them back their time. I mean,
yeah.
I guess it begs the question of why is there a sales call if they don't have any pain points that align with any of the solutions or products that you may be offering. And again, it goes back to, if there is more discovery to be made, you can absolutely go down that path. But if you're at a point where there's just this, I would give them back their time and say, maybe this doesn't make sense right now.
Yeah, it usually happens because the SDR they had a 1-minute cold call and they did some qualification. So, the SDR is using probably a framework like BANT, so budget, authority, need, time, which is not the same as discovery. And I think oftentimes, and salespeople and basically anybody in the sales org can be guilty of this, where it's sort of conflating discovery with qualification. And so the way that I look at it, especially as a solutions consultant or sales engineer, is the SDR and AE are kind of responsible for that qualification, and I'm really responsible for that discovery. But you have to at least have a process there. And yeah, to Josh's point, maybe sometimes you give them their time back, or maybe just ask them for some feedback and just see if you can get something valuable from them. Or, hey, I know this isn't a fit for you, but is there anybody else in your organization maybe I should talk to? And at that point, you have nothing to lose. The worst thing, if they say no, they were going to say no anyway. So it's not like there's any downside at that point.
Okay. So it's a matter then of pivoting, keeping the conversation alive.
Yeah. I was going to say, just to provide context, I think typically, depending on how your company or product works, and either A, they're reaching out to you because they have some intent, or separately, there's an SDR that sort of generated a cold interest and then they're passing it off and it's, moved into the next stage of the funnel. If it's that scenario, then it's definitely important to at least level set with the customer and understand why are they there in the first place. Because it sort of sounds like in your situation, they're almost sitting in the room just because it was put on their calendar.
Yeah.
But you really want to try and understand, why did they enter into this Zoom call in the first place? And if it's coming direct from a website, they have some intent somewhere and they're just trying to learn, but they may not be in a buying stage yet. And so maybe your job to sort of flip the script and say, well, how can I help you learn? And then set you up for a future date where you could be in a buying phase or a try it phase.
And I've sometimes just passed leads to even people that just not necessarily competitors, but at other companies that maybe can solve it better. And then it's just like, look, I'm not the right fit for you, but I think Josh could really help you. So if you don't mind, I'm going to put you in touch with him. Then, it helps build my relationship with another company that may send leads my way. Now the person remembers me for kind of being good and doing the right thing. And then maybe down the line, something will compliment, maybe not. But, I sort of believe that if you do that sort of thing enough times, it'll eventually come back.
100%.
Establishing trust through transparency.
Yeah. That's Todd Capone, the transparency sale. That's his whole thing.
Awesome. Thank you.
To be honest with you, that approach could get you back in that exact same call. I've seen it happen where it could, to Ed's point, I'm helping them literally research a competitor or some totally different industry. And then that conversation dovetails back into, oh, well, I actually have this pain and our product can actually help solve that. I really appreciate you helping me do research on this versus, what you're actually selling. Totally helps. And they can come back in that call or a year later. It's worked. I can attest to that.
For sure.
Cool.
Sorry, I have a
Go
question.
ahead. No, please. Yeah.
When working with an account executive, a lot of the time that type of conversation is out of an SE's perimeter of action. I would feel uncomfortable to go that far on my own, even if it was a better solution. So other than, slacking the AE on the background to try and get that alignment, what is the SE in that situation best plan of action? Because we can think that's the right thing, but for an AE, maybe they're desperate to close this deal. They still have hope in it, without ruining that relationship with your AE as well.
So I've seen a few different ways you can handle that. I've seen some AEs and SEs have sort of some coded language between the two of them that if there's certain things that you say, whatever that phrase is, this really means I want you to take this, I can't help you. Or if you just say, yeah, I think we can, sometimes it's just, if you're going to move forward, it's, yeah, I definitely think we can help you. And now Larson, why don't you tell him about next steps? And so that's an easy one for moving forward, but maybe you have some other phrase that, I kind of pass it back to Larson and make it clear, I don't think we can do this. And so then there is that alignment with just some of that nonverbal stuff, or with that non-direct verbal, I should say. In the room, sometimes it's a little bit easier, but honestly, you can just use Slack or have some type of way of doing that. And I think part of it too is just building up that demo between the AE, or the relationship between the AE and the SE. When I was doing sort of everyday SE work, I kind of had that trust built up with the AE that I could say things like that we just had that relationship where I really was the partner in the deal. So part of that is getting that AE's trust that if you're allowed to do things like that, which is, it takes time, but by building that relationship, and usually the way I did it was just basically saying, look, I'm going to do all the work in this meeting. And then if, I'm going to do all the work, you're going to get all the money and the credit. So let's just do it that way. And that made them like me pretty quickly because I would make the money. So that was often how I'd handle that.
To help, and let's say you don't have a relationship with an AE or you're just working a deal for the first time, I typically would make it a point to do some scenario planning. Not super invasive, but just 15, 20 minutes, get on a call and go, okay, there's 5 possible roads this call or deal could go. How does this affect you? How does, and then reel it back into, all right, this is how I would solve it, or this is how I would answer it. And then after that, you sort of fall into Ed's scenario where it's after that, you've the rapport and the relationship with them, and you understand how to sort of balance that act back and forth.
The way that I frame that, that's a great point. The way that I usually frame that sort of argument with an AE is I would say, look, we had a meeting sort of either before the call or as we got closer to it, and I basically framed it as the AE's job is to sell me on why we should move forward with this account, and my job is to tell the AE why we shouldn't. Even if we didn't necessarily agree with all the points, it was sort of, I was playing the devil's advocate role and they were playing that sort of the other side of it. And then we could come to a consensus together and we could kind of see, yeah, you know what, you're right, I don't think this is good, or yeah, you know what, I think we can get past this, it's not that big an issue, and then let's go ahead and close it.
Yeah, Josh, I love your point. Well, both your points on the PreCall Sync. I think going through these different situations, and you do that enough times, you do it 3-4 times with the same person, and you kind of get a sense of how they're going to react in situations like that. But then having kind of that opt-out situation. Heck, I mean, when I was an SC, there were times I get on calls and be like, hey, you know what, guys? I think what we need to do internally is just come back and discuss as a team. And we'll loop back around to you. And if we can find a good solution or a good plan to move forward, we'll reach back out. But, I think it's going to take some more work on our end, kind of almost bring it back to yourself. That could be one kind of exit strategy, if you will.
Great one. I love that.
Because then you're not killing it right then. Like it still has, it could have legs. You could craft a plan moving forward, but then you also have an out too, where you could go to your AE and be like, if you think this has legs, man, then you need to put together a business value case or X, Y, and Z, or gather more information.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
So I know we have about 5 minutes left. Josh, is that enough time to wrap things up with a couple minutes on why Digitile is awesome?
Yeah, let me ask this. If anybody has other scenarios they want to talk through, I'd be happy to continue the conversation. Otherwise, we can go through the good demo scenario. And if anybody wants to stay on, we can talk about it. But I want to make sure everybody has scenarios or situations that they have answers to.
Yeah.
Because we'd be happy to sort of bypass the good and help with your scenarios.
If that's what we do, just don't judge Digitile based on my demo. I want to be very clear on that.
All right. We'll do a good demo then.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll set the scene really quick. So in this scenario, Larson is a head of marketing for an e-commerce company. And this is the second call. He's already met with an SDR. And now I'm coming in and doing a demo based on his needs from that first call. Hey, Larson, how are you today? I really appreciate the time that you offered to spend with me. I understand that you and Jamie already had a call, and Jamie sort of talked to you about some of your pains and your needs. I just wanted to really quickly recap on some of those pain points, and then give you a chance to sort of either fill in the blanks or guide me on some of the things that you're looking to see today. But as I understand it, it looks like your team is currently using Google Drive, and there's a lot of, I'll say, restrictions around how you guys organize all of your different files to make them very easily searchable. The other thing I understood was that you guys are really constantly living inside of email and in your inbox, that you're looking for a more productive way to utilize the inbox to leverage some of the capabilities to search for those files. Is there anything else that I missed? Is there anything you were looking for?
No, I think that's spot on there, Josh. I just want to emphasize that we're looking for a great tool that can help to create some structure within our marketing team for just really the entire product catalog. So I think you're spot on right there.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the added context there. So here's what I want to talk to you just a little bit about what Digitile does, just to give you that overarching understanding. Basically, Digitile will provide a single place for you to tag and organize all of your files that live in Google Drive very easily. And then it'll also integrate into your Gmail workflow to help your team be more productive. What I'd like to show you today is how you can add more structure and more flexibility around the files that you store in Google Drive and tag those, and then help you search for those in Gmail. And so I'm going to jump into a demo and show you that right now. Show my screen. So as I understood it, you guys are using Google Drive right now and organizing things based on generic folders. But what it seems like you're really looking to do is provide a bunch of added contextual content around something that could be very simple as a gender folder or in your product catalog. And with Digitile, you can easily do that by leveraging tags. Now, just to explain how this works, when you connect Google Drive to Digitile, it's going to automatically turn your folders into tags. So if I want to tag some things in my gender folder, I can search for that very easily. But then to answer your particular pain point, you may have some added context that you need to add. So you may want to add the fact that all of these images are scary. That's added context that isn't within the framework of Google Drive, and you may not want to create that folder. So you can tag all of those files with scary very easily. And once you add those tags, it'll apply those tags to all of those files. Now you can do this as many times as you want with various different metadata that you want to add to help people find this in the future. Now to help your teammates utilize Gmail faster, Digital integrates into the Gmail experience. So while they're in their inbox and they want to search for something that I just tagged, for instance, like scary images in the product catalog, they can begin typing in scary, and Digital is actually going to search across your Google Drive. And then they can search for and find that scary tag, and then it'll pop up those files right there. And then they could either, share these files, they can download it, they can go off and do whatever they need and help them be more productive and save some time. Was there anything else that you wanted to go through? Did you have any questions about that particular piece?
No, I think that looks perfect. That looks spot on.
Awesome. And end.
Well done. I won't even judge you for using leverage. No, but I mean, so if we see the difference with a demo like that, he got Larson's buy-in throughout the demo. He was talking about benefits. Look how easy this is for me to use. He gave in demo to win, we call it the tell, show, tell, where he set up some context before showing something. And then after he was done with the demo, he reiterated the benefits. And so he was not teaching how to use the software, but he's talking about why it's great. And so that's really the value you want to communicate in that demo. So I know we're a couple minutes past the hour, so happy to want to not have everyone be late to the next meeting. So I will post this on I'll post this on the same page for the site. I'll send this video out in an email as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you,
Thanks
everybody.
for joining.